Director and DC CEO James Gunn has made some, shall I say, questionable statements in the past in regards to superhero movies. Previously this year, he said that The Flash was actually one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. And of course, we saw that come out, and it had, I don't know, middling scores amongst audiences and kind of weak scores amongst critics. And then, as we all remember, it went on to be a huge box office flop for the studio. He also made similar comments praising Blue Beetle, and that looks like it's going to be another box office flop. I mean, I guess it's all but guaranteed at this point that it's going to be another box office flop for Warner Brothers. But the reason this is important, because now we got other comments that he's made that's been dug up from the past. So James Gunn's 11-year-old Facebook comments on previous Batman films resurface. And the reason this is important is because a lot of people are kind of bringing it into question his taste in movies, especially since he's brought in to fix the DC universe, so to speak. And if he doesn't even like previous DC movies like the Tim Burton Batman or the Christopher Nolan Batmans that everyone loves, but he loves these other movies that people don't really seem to care for, then what's going to happen with the future of the movies? So scrolling down into the article, James Gunn continues to get himself in hot water with DC fans. This time it was caused by comments he made over a decade ago about Tim Burton and Christopher Nolan's Batman films. When Gunn was made co-CEO of DC Studios, it divided the fan base between those who believed he would be DC's savior and those who thought he would be the final nail in the coffin for them. Gunn has been active on social media, which has been good for fans to get updates on upcoming DCU projects. However, Gunn's recent comments on Superman Legacy reignited some hate around the decision to recast Henry Cavill. All right. And one thing that's interesting is he's made comments talking about how he didn't care for the Tim Burton Batman movies, but he really did praise the Flash movie, which was kind of strange because a lot of the marketing for the Flash movie was kind of centered around Michael Keaton being in it, and that was a big point to it. And apparently James Gunn didn't like it, or if his past comments were to be believed. So why would he not like Michael Keaton's Batman or the Tim Burton Batman movies, but like the Flash, which really, I mean, even though Michael Keaton wasn't in it a ton, it was really built around that. Now Gunn is receiving backlash for a rant that he went on 11 years ago about Burton and Nolan's Batman movies on his personal Facebook page. And I actually got a screen capture from these comments that he was talking about. So this is what he said about one of them. Right here you can just see, oh yeah, and Jack Nicholson as the Joker is Jack Nicholson in The Shiny with worse clown makeup. F you, everyone involved with that travesty. Yeah, so he didn't like Jack Nicholson Joker. I mean, I think a lot of people would agree they like Heath Ledger's Joker, but still, I mean, I think the Jack Nicholson one was pretty good for what it was, or at least for that take on it. The Tim Burton Batman, according to James Gunn, was poorly written. The soundtrack is the worst, and keep in mind they used part of that soundtrack for the Flash movie. Work on everyone involved, and it is absolutely one of the most boring films ever. Not only that, but the reveal of the Joker as the killer of Bruce Wayne's parents spits in the face of Batman's origin and is a nullification of the bottomless thirst for vengeance that necessarily drives Batman. It pretends not to be a campy, but it is completely so, and on top of everything, the dark creature of the night can't even move his effing neck. Give me a effing break. It's a ridiculous, awful film. Burton's Planet of the Apes is genius in comparison. Tell us how you really feel. What is it? Keaton did have a ridiculous voice. That said, I'd rather put up with the ridiculous voice than with the horrible acting sequence and acting barely worthy of the Batman TV show. I have no idea how you can think that the Burton Batman has more similarities with Moore or Miller's Batman and Joker than Nolan does. And listen, I have problems with both of Nolan's films. I don't think either one is classic, and I don't even really think Batman Begins is good, but they're far superior to the first Batman. None of your defenses get by the fact that despite being the first cinematic dark take on Batman, so what? Stallone's Judge Dredd was the first dark take on Judge Dredd. That movie is awful. So yeah, this is why people are questioning James Gunn being brought in to, or at least it's raising more questions about his involvement with the future of the DC. Because like I said, if he has these takes on Batman movies that everyone seems to like, and he's also praising movies that people seem to hate, then what's going to happen with the future of it? Now, there is some defense. Some defense. We got this article from Screen Rant from back in June. Why James Gunn had to call the Flash movie great, explained by Hollywood marketing experts. So this article more or less kind of goes into saying like, oh, there's like a political nature between the film industry, and since he was working at the studio and stuff like that, I mean, he kind of has to hype up everything that they do and whatnot, which to me seems fair, but at the same time, that means we really don't know what his views are of this. I mean, if he thinks this is terrible or whatever and he's going out and saying it's great, well, then that's not really a good look, because that means anything he says from here on out in regards to anything Warner Brothers is putting out is, I mean, it just can't be believed or whatever. And that kind of also goes with what we've seen from him in the past, where he's been kind of iffy on certain things, where like, especially when it's talking about Blue Beetle and its future with DC, where he wasn't given direct answers because he couldn't say we're getting rid of it because that would hurt the movie, but he didn't want to commit that they're actually making more Blue Beetle stuff. So he was kind of being washy on it, and I think that's what we can expect from him. But I think a lot what he was saying in the past on his personal Facebook page, those previous comments about the Batman movies, I think those are a little bit more sincere, because at the time he really wasn't who he is now. So I think people can take that with like, yeah, those were his real opinions, which means at best he just doesn't have the taste that people actually want. I mean, despite the fact that he's made some good movies in the past and people really like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and his take on the Suicide Squad was decent, or at least in comparison to the mismatch that was the David Ayer / studio version of the movie. It's really bringing doubts on whether he's capable of actually helming this new universe. I mean, so far, I mean, since he's taken over, we've seen a lot of issues with it, or a lot of pushback against it, and I think we're just going to see more of that, and I'm not really expecting a whole lot out of this coming forward. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, and if you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.